What if you could turn your passion for helping others into a career that changes lives, starting with your own? Join Empower's Certified Professional Empower Coach Academy, accredited by the ICF and powered by Oregon State University. Our next cohort begins February 28th. Visit yesempower.com to reserve your spot today.
Welcome to Rewired. I'm your host, Tiffany Grimes with Empower Coaching and Training. Good morning, podcast listeners. It is 9 o'clock in the morning on a Wednesday, November 26th, and I'm going to release this a bit early this week. Normally I release the podcast on Fridays, but I will be playing the rest of the week with my kiddos who are out of school and my family who is visiting. And so I want to get this out the door because I also think it is a really important topic, which is surfing the urge, choosing values over autopilot. And as we are at the threshold of what is for many of us in the U.S., the beginning of time with friends and family, and not all of those are easy moments. Not all of those are chosen moments. There may be things happening at work or in our home lives that are putting us in a place of choice. And that is especially true over the next few months, again, for most of us. So I want to focus on this. And it's also just real in my own life as well. So it seemed like a valuable topic this morning. So surfing the urge. Think about what that just looks like and feels like and how you might be able to relate to that. I would describe this in my own life as moments where I'm like so prepared and ready, and I've done intentional work around communication and how I want to say things in a really, way that I'm owning my place in it. Would be in a conversation with my partner or my children, and I'm like prepared and I've done the work. And then I find myself in the middle of that, what is no longer a conversation, but is maybe a full-on conflict. And I'm saying things that I don't mean, and I'm saying things without thinking them through, and they're not in alignment with my value. And in fact, when I come into that, as I stated, I find myself in this moment, which means I have gone into total old programming, into autopilot. And there's a moment at which I wake up in it, and I'm like, oh, what am I doing? And now I'm in it and don't know how to get out of it. And so there was an urge for me to go back to my old pathways, old ways of doing things, old ways of defining conflict or challenges, and I went into fight mode. And so there was an urge, and rather than surfing it, rather than feeling it and being present with it and having empathy and compassion and staying in alignment with my values, I just got sucked in by the wave, right? So I didn't surf it. I didn't stay in discomfort. I gave in to that urge. I'm now saying things I don't want to say. I might be yelling or walking away or stonewalling or all of my many beautiful tricks that I bring to the table when I'm in autopilot. And there are other ways to be. And I have successfully surfed urges, and my own work and mindfulness and self-awareness and presence has absolutely helped me in doing that. Do I always get it right? No, I still get definitely enveloped by big waves, but I am learning how to surf the urges, whether it is about eating or drinking or fighting or Xing people out of my life or, things that I have as my own armor. I'm learning how to be with that and not give in to that. So have you ever done that? I'm assuming I'm not the only one in this. Have you ever had that split second urge to, I don't know, snap at someone you love, to send the text you know you will regret, like you're already regretting it before you even send it and you send it anyway. Have you ever had the urge to shut down, to pull away? That is absolutely one of my favorites to go to. I can just draw a line and people are dead to me. Or like drop a boundary. You know, we talked about boundaries a few weeks ago that you've worked really hard on, whether that's again in communication or what you're going to do with your body or, you know, a million other things. So if you can relate to this, welcome to the human condition. Welcome to what it means to be human. It is the constant place of having a goal, having a growth zone, knowing who we can be, who we want to be, who we have in us, and having this brain that is designed for survival and wired to see threat and negative biases and all of these things. And it's this place that we have to learn to be in if we really want to surf the urge. Today, we're going to talk about this idea of surfing the urge, what's happening in our brain when those urges show up, why they feel so darn powerful, and how learning to stay in that discomfort, learning to stay in discomfort instead of reacting can change everything. Let's start with what is an urge. So we're going to use this just to kind of normalize this experience, something we all have in our human existence. An urge is not a problem. It's not a flaw. It's not evidence of a lack of worthiness or a lack of willpower. An urge is simply your nervous system doing what it is designed to do, which is to reduce discomfort as quickly as possible. So think about that from the brain state. When we feel threatened, overwhelmed, rejected, or exhausted, which all register as threats for our brain, that is designed to keep us alive. Our brain is looking for the fastest way out of that. So we might snap because that feels powerful in the moment. So I'm in a moment, I feel powerless. I feel maybe trapped or overwhelmed. And so I snap, I yell, I say something, I have big movements. It momentarily gives me a sense of power. Now, it's false power, but in the moment, the brain goes, we're trying to reclaim some power here. Maybe it looks like stonewalling. Again, I noticed, I said earlier, this is one of my tricks that I do. I'm doing less and less, I should say. But it feels protective. I tell myself a story like, if this person does this to me, I don't need them. I don't want them around. I won't subject myself to this. It's like it goes in my brain. I'm tricking myself that this is some boundary I'm setting, right? Like this is a protective boundary, but really it's armor from being vulnerable or saying what I really feel. Over explaining. So for some of us, that reaction that we have is to over explain, to overshare. And there's some sense of like false connection, like I'm revealing something or I'm saying enough to like get your approval or to be seen by you. It might look like abandoning boundaries altogether. So for me, it's like I cling to these boundaries and I go to rigid boundaries. For others, it might be I'm abandoning these boundaries altogether. So these goals I've set, these things I've said, it's too hard. And I'm just going to do what feels easier right now in the moment. And here's the important part. If you're hearing yourself in one or all or many of these, most urges feel good in the moment and it's bad afterwards. So I want you to think about that. So we aren't bad people for giving in to our urges. What it means is that we are believing what we're thinking. I'm believing that stonewalling this person from my life is protecting me, when really it's just me practicing a real great avoidance technique, right? Or so I'm feeling this urge, and it's hard to sit in that discomfort. I'm feeling the urge to stonewall, to walk away, to give him the middle finger, to, to like get out of the moment. And I feel worse afterwards. And now I need to go back and practice repair. I need to relive into my values. I need to have those vulnerable conversations that I was avoiding in the first place that got me into this situation. So I'm having this sense of struggle in the moment. And my brain, bless its little soul, wants to give me relief. And so if I give into that, I feel good in the moment, but I feel bad, and I'm using very simplistic terms here, afterwards.
We'll be back after a quick break.
Ready to make a real difference? Become a certified professional coach with Empower Coaching and Training. Our next CPEC cohort, accredited by the International Coaching Federation and offered in partnership with Oregon State University, starts February 28th. Spots are limited. Learn more at yesempower.com.
When we learn to surf the urge, we do the opposite of that. So we feel that discomfort and we stay in it. We do the hard work as it's happening. I'm tending to myself. I'm finding the courage to be vulnerable. I'm sticking with my values. I'm doing the things. I'm practicing my healthy boundaries. I'm doing all of those things, which feel really hard and probably bad in the moment. But afterwards, I feel good. I feel proud of myself maybe for doing that hard work. I feel a sense of accomplishment. I've built new brain pathways. I've done this thing that I said I was going to do. We talked about this earlier in the boundaries episode. I stuck with it in the hard part in the beginning, and I have less work to do on the other side of that. And what I want to just highlight, and we'll talk about this several times throughout this podcast, is that either way, whether I surf the urge or I give in to the urge, I feel there is a sense of bad, hard, and then there is a sense of good, and I'll say relief. So either way, we're going to experience both of those things. It's really a decision of, do I want to do, am I able to, do I have the brain built to do the hard work in the moment, staying in that discomfort so that afterwards I have moved closer to who I know I am, to who lives into the values and who she is and how she wants to be in her intention, right? Or I give in the moment. I feel better in the moment. But when I awake to myself afterwards, I am further away, much further away in some instances from who I know I can be and who I really want to be and how I want to walk this earth. So let's talk about the neuroscience of this and why urges can tend to hijack us. So when an urge shows up, your amygdala, we've talked about the amygdala perhaps on every single Rewired episode, it is that brain's alarm system, that threat detector. It's activated. So an urge shows up, your amygdala goes, ugh, here it is. Let me prepare, right? The prefrontal cortex, that thinking region, part of your brain, it's responsible for reflection, for choice and values. It begins to partially go offline because, again, our brain is designed for safety. So if there is a potential threat, We want to move, our brain wants us to move into more of a reactionary state. Like I'm not thinking through because thinking is slower from a survival standpoint. So that part of my brain that's keeping me in alignment with my values and who I want to be and this goal that I'm setting and all of these things, these living into these boundaries and maintaining these boundaries, that part goes offline partially. And we're starting to move down into that lower brain. So in those moments, the brain is not asking, what matters most to me here, right? Instead, it's asking, how do I stop this discomfort right now? That's why autopilot is so tempting. And that's why willpower alone doesn't work, because willpower is taking place in that part of our brain that is starting to shut down. So we've got to learn to create neural pathways that feel like less thinking and more automatic in being with discomfort. So when an urge arises, we actually have two hard options. And I'm going to kind of revisit what I talked about before. I got ahead of myself, but it's worth repeating because I remember when I learned this, I'm going to say, but really kind of came into this awareness and did more work in my mindfulness work on surfing the urge. It really sat heavily in a good way with me, because I think what I often thought was, if I give into this, if I just yell, I'm going to yell, it's somebody else's fault. I was being all cool and mellow. And if they hadn't have said that, if they hadn't have kept pushing, then I wouldn't have done that. But B, it's like, this is what I must do in the moment, I think is what I always felt like. I didn't have another option. And so doing this work, what I realized is I do have an option. And either way, there will be hard work and there will be a sense of relief. Which one of these paths gets me closer to the life I want to live? Right? That is what was so profound to me. So when the urge arises, we are presented with two options. And right now, as I walk through this, I want you to think about a quote unquote urge for you. Again, it might be around a person, food, our body, self-talk, conflict, work. I want you to think about this, like not getting up and going to work, the urge, telling somebody off, the urge to do that, walking away, the urge to do that. I want you to pull up an experience for you to go through this if you can. And if that feels too vulnerable or you're just not in a place where you can do that, just kind of set it over to the side and maybe do this work later. So option one, we're going to try to make this real black and white, real simple for us to kind of look at. Option one, we can give into the urge. There's immediate relief. There is a sense of control, even though it is temporary. And there is momentary comfort. We are returning to something our brain knows. And then there's shame, there's regret, there's relationship strain, there's erosion of self-trust. And again, that might be all of the above option or one or two of these things. So it feels good now, feels bad later. That's option one. And I know that option very well. I practiced that a whole lot in my 20s and 30s. I started working on that and really kind of turning on the light in my 40s. And now in my 50s, I'm, better. I've got options. I know I have options. And it's rare that I give in to that urge, but it still happens for sure. Option two is to surf the urge. So there's discomfort, there's restlessness, there's emotional heat. So you're sitting with this urge. You have that. I have that. Like we call it emotional heat. It's this like presence. It's here. It's hot. It's like I want to pass it on. Pema Chodron talks about this in one of her books where she talks about it like a hot potato, like we're all just past it. I want to get that hot potato out of our hands. I'm like jiggling my hands right now up and down. But if we can sit with that for just a moment, there's so much that can happen when we learn how to sit with that for just a moment. But then, so we're learning how to sit with that in the moment. It's discomfort. It's restlessness. I want this done. I hate this moment, I know this is a conversation I have in my head, but then I've stuck with my values. And so on the other side, I have integrity, self-respect, stronger boundaries, perhaps more aligned relationships. So it's the feel bad now, feels good later option. So option 1, option 2. I want you to think about that in times where you have practiced these. We've all practiced these at some point. And as you're thinking about that particular instance that I had encouraged you to think about, what would that look like? What would giving in to the urge look like? And what would surfing the urge look like?
We'll be back after a quick break.
Ready to level up how you lead at work and at home? Empower Coaching and Training brings brain-based coaching, mindfulness tools, and real-world strategies you can share with those you serve and live with. Get started now. Visit us at yesempower.com.
If you are acting in alignment with who you know yourself to be, who you want yourself to be, your values, your boundaries, your all of these things, what would you do? How would you be in that moment? And that's the surfing the urge. Both paths are hard, but one builds the life you want, and one keeps you stuck. So what surfing the urge actually means, let's talk about that. Surfing the urge doesn't mean suppressing it. It does not mean avoidance. It doesn't mean toxic positivity where we're just saying, oh, if I only think happy thoughts. And it definitely doesn't mean ignoring our own needs. I want to be really clear on that. I work with a lot of folks who will go all the way over to the other end of the spectrum. We just need to be positive, and we don't. That's not at all what this is. That is not mindfulness. That's storytelling. That's avoidance, right? So what surfing the urge does mean is creating just enough space between the urge and the action for your prefrontal cortex to come back online. So the urge is there, and we need to create enough space, just enough space to allow our prefrontal cortex to come online, because that amygdala that we talked about earlier has a much stronger connection to our reactionary brain. So it will move things faster into that survival lizard reactionary brain. It takes a fraction of a second, but it does take longer to get to our thinking brain. So we might think, for example, I notice the urge to snap. I notice that this is present in me. I feel the urge to shut down. I'm noticing in the middle of an argument with my partner, I want to say something mean. I want to hurt with my words, and I want to walk out. I can sense that in my body. I know it well. My body wants relief. My brain wants relief from this really hard situation. So I'm noticing without judgment. That's one way to be able to create some space. So we're kind of hovering above. What am I noticing here? I notice the urge. I feel this. I'm wanting this. So we're noticing without judgment. We're not shaming ourselves as we do this, or even cheering ourselves on. We're just simply becoming present in the situation that is. So let's take this just a little bit further. So we're going to practice a simple 4-step self-coaching tool. I will put this in the show notes as well, so you can go down and get this to work yourself through it or print it out and have it available for yourself over the next season, shall I say, of times with people. So in this 4-step self-coaching tool, here's what we're going to do. First, we're going to name the urge. So that's what we just practiced. We're kind of creating that space, right? The very beginning of the space. So first, we're going to name the urge. I'm having the urge to yell and to walk out of this room. I'm going to use my own scenario from a few months ago in a real heated conversation I had with my partner. So I'm having the urge to say something, and that something is mean. And then I'm having an urge to walk out, maybe of this room, maybe of this house, maybe of this life, right? Like not suicide, but just like out of the life I've created. I want out. That's for me, that's what my urge is. I want out, even though I have a lovely marriage and a lovely family, but that lizard brain wants out. That's my response. So first I'm going to name the urge. 2, I'm going to locate it in my body. Where do I feel this? In my body, I feel it in my chest. I feel it in my gut. My whole body, my feet are moving. My hands are going. Like I have real physicality in the moment. There's movement. I can't sit down. I find that when I'm in this place, I'm like folding. I'm walking around, I'm scrubbing the counter, I'm doing something that I've got my eyes off of my partner, I've got my body moving, and there's just a tension. I have named this because I know it so well. I've named mine petals, meaning that it feels like to me when I'm in these moments, I've got one foot completely on the gas pedal, like all the way down, while having the other foot completely on the brake pedal. And so I am just revving up my engine and going nowhere. So I would say I'm having the urge to do this, number one. This is petals. I can feel petals happening right now. That's what I would say to myself. 3, I'm going to breathe and I'm going to stay. And I want to say, we're assuming staying is a healthy choice in this. So if there is ever obviously a risk of safety or any of those situations, this is not the toolkit for those jobs. This is a toolkit where staying is the healthier choice. Staying in conversation, staying with the urge is the healthier choice for us. So number 3, again, breathe and stay. So I've practiced for many years now, daily meditation. I've already got it linked to some really great pathways in my body to activate my parasympathetic nervous system, to get my prefrontal cortex back online. One real easy, simple practice breathing technique is box breathing. You inhale for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, you hold for 4. You do that 3 to 4 times. Another one is 4, 7, 8. That's one that I practice a lot. So I inhale through my nose. 4, I hold it. And then I do a really long exhale through my lips that are kind of shaped like I'm blowing through a straw. I do that a few times. For me, because I'm so physical in my response, I also relax. I kind of roll my shoulders back, and I might shake my hands out and like do little kicks with my legs just to I'm teaching my nervous system, I'm safe here. This is not a threat. This is the person I love, that I'm choosing to spend my life with, that I'm raising kids with, that loves me, that protects me, that I'm reminding my system of this because my brain is going threat. And I go back to these really old archaic systems, meaning like evolutionary systems, right? So I'm needing to remind myself, this is a problem that is best dealt with by my prefrontal cortex. Once I've done that, and I can say that to my partner, I'm just going to take a moment and breathe. I'm just going to take a minute, and you can do this with me, but I'm finding myself kind of coming out of my body a little bit, and I want to just breathe and stay in this conversation real thoughtfully. So I'll do that. And then 4 and final in this 4-step self-coaching tool is to reconnect to my values. So I'm going to ask myself, for example, if I don't act on this urge, what am I protecting? If I don't act on this urge, what am I protecting? I'm protecting the kind of person I want to be. I'm protecting my relationship. I'm protecting these new brain pathways I've been building over the last few years about how to own what's bothering me, what's triggering me. I'm protecting this sweet soul of mine that is feeling threatened and needs love and in alignment with my values and all of those things, right? I might ask myself, who do I want to be in this moment? I want to be clear, kind, boundaried. I want to listen. I haven't listened at all in this conversation. As a matter of fact, I've just been telling a lot or waiting for you to stop talking so that I can say what it is. I'm faking listening. Who do I want to be in this moment? This is the work. It's not dramatic. It's not flashy, but it is profoundly powerful. Name the urge, locate it in your body, breathe and stay with it, and reconnect to your values. That's the work, and it's hard. And the more that we can practice this, the more we are giving ourselves the ability to do it in the moment. That is surfing the urge. One of the biggest rewires we can make is this. Discomfort is not a signal to act. It's a signal to pay attention. And again, I'm putting this in the context of physical, emotional, mental safety. This is not to be applied to situations where those things are being threatened. When I am in this loving, beautiful, amazing partnership that I have, and I experience discomfort in that moment, it is not lower brain, lizard brain, a signal to you to take over. It is, in fact, a signal for me, for my amygdala, to move this to my prefrontal cortex. I want to learn to stay with discomfort so that I can continue to build emotional resiliency, nervous system capacity, self-trust. We get to teach our brains this. We get to teach our brains, I can feel this and still choose well, and even still be in choice for some of us. I can feel this discomfort and still choose well for myself. Let's be clear. You will not serve every urge perfectly. As I've shared, I don't, and nobody does. This isn't about perfection. It's about rewiring, my friend. It's about practicing awareness a little more often than we bring autopilot to the table. We do it one moment at a time. We do it one urge at a time. So the next time an urge arises, which again, for many of our listeners who are US based, we are the day before, many of us will gather with friends and family. We are on the doorstep of the seasons where lots of assumptions are made and lots of disagreements occur at work, at home, in the parking lot, all sorts of places. So you will have so many urges arrive. And when they do, when we have the urge to lash out, to disappear, to hurt with our words, to abandon ourselves, we can pause. We have the power to pause and to ask, am I choosing short-term relief or long-term alignment? Both are hard, but one builds a nervous system and a life that you trust. If this resonated with you, I invite you to really practice this purposefully. Notice one urge this week, just one. You don't even have to change it. Just notice it. Awareness is the first rewire. As I always end, I want to remind you that this hard work can be done within the presence of a really amazing coach, and we have a lot of them at Empower. You always have the option to meet with one of our certified professional coaches for free to see if you find compatibility with that coach, if it's a good fit. We work with young people, we work with couples, we work with individuals, and we love work on learning to surf the urge because it is so life transforming. These little micro practices that a coach can do with you can really help transform your life. So with that, you all have a wonderful week. And I'll leave you with this line one more time. Awareness is always the first rewire. Thanks for tuning in to Rewired, where neuroscience meets real life change. If you enjoyed today's conversation, I'd be so grateful if you take a moment to leave a 5-star review. Your feedback helps people discover the tools, insights, and inspirations they need to create lasting change. While you're leaving that 5-star review, please also subscribe and share an episode with a friend. Remember, the way you think shapes the way you live. Every intentional thought, every mindful choice rewires your brain and your life. So go live intentionally, live thoughtfully, and never underestimate the power of your own mind to transform your world. Until next time, this is Tiffany with Empower Coaching and Training. Stay curious, stay empowered, and keep rewiring for real change.
Every family has challenges, and every parent deserves support. At Empower Coaching and Training, youth and parenting coach Jasmine Chandler helps parents and young people find clarity, connection, and practical tools that make a difference. Visit yesempower.com to connect with Jasmine and explore our team of incredible coaches today.